What is happening, Magnus sites? So several of you sent me the request to watch Ben Shapiro's review of The Batman. So, for a lot of you that don't know, I'm not really big into politics, but once I did start watching political material, Ben's one of the people that I follow. I'm actually subscribed to him. And is it Matt Walsh? And several others. A few people from each side, the left and the right, and other people that are sprinkled and independent and all that stuff. I like to get a thorough view of what people around the world are thinking of certain things. I don't like to get just one perspective, you know what I mean? But Ben's one of my favorites, and I've seen his movie reviews before. So I feel like he has similar taste to my own, so that's cool. So let's see here. Let me hit the screen record and let's play. Ready?
Alrighty, folks, so last night I went and I saw The Batman. My review of that is coming up in just one moment. This video is sponsored by Ring. So, last night I went and saw The Batman. Went and saw it with my wife. It is 1 million hours long. And it's one of those movies where I started off and I was like, okay. And then I got a little further in and I was like, alright. And then I got to the end and I was like, meh. And then the more I thought about it, the angrier I became. And so you're about to hear a lot of hot takes on The Batman because I hate this movie.
He didn't like it! You know what? Wait, let me back up. I did tell you there were woke elements. On my second viewing, I did see more than I saw last time. I don't know if I would call the movie woke, but it has its woke elements. But he'll definitely see more than I saw. Because he's Ben Shapiro. He sees this stuff. He's trained for this. So let's check this out.
Okay, first of all, I'm just going to tell you right up front, spoilers. Spoilers aplenty here. So if you haven't seen the film yet, and you want to see the film, and you don't want to be spoiled, I'm warning you. You've been warned. Alright, this is Detective Batman. So if the original Michael Keaton Batman was sort of crime-fighting Batman, and the Christopher Nolan Batman was city-saving Batman, this Batman is supposed to be Detective Batman. And this has a long history in the Batman comics. Yes. Some of the best Batman comics, particularly my favorite, The Long Halloween, is rooted in the idea of Batman not just as Caped Crusader, but as a great detective, smarter than everybody else, capable of picking up on clues, investigating and tracking down crimes.
Exactly.
I'm going to start with what's right with the film, because it's going to be real short. So what's right with the film is that it looks great. It is a film noirish take on Gotham City. It almost feels kind of like retro Taxi Driver Gotham City. So everything's very dirty.
Okay.
It's all taking place at night.
Dirty.
It's shot in kind of grayscale at times. It's got a lot of warm oranges and reds, but against a very dark black. So
when Catwoman hails the taxi was when I was like, look, I said to Scarlett, look how dirty the taxi is. Look, you see this shit? And I had already kind of noticed it my first viewing, but you know, sometimes when you see something again, it just really brings it to the forefront. Gotham is dirty and stanky as hell.
It's a lot of muttered dialogue. It feels as though it's taking place in the same city as Joker is taking place. So if you saw Joker, Phillips' Joker, which looks like 1970s New York, it feels almost like the other half of that, but
it does. I said it already. I said Joaquin's Joker fits with this Batman. I think I've seen a couple of comments. Yes, it does. If you look at both films, yes. Anyway, let's go.
Seems more like the take on what future New York would look like if you were living in New York in 1970. That's sort of a good way of putting it. The music to the film is okay. I think that Michael Giacchino tends to be a little bit derivative in how he does the scores to the films. This one, he basically takes the music that Hans Zimmer and James Newton Howard wrote for Batman Begins in the Nolan trilogy, which the theme goes da da, and here he just inverts it. So instead of da da, it's da da. Okay, fine. So it's a little bit derivative, but the score is totally fine. The acting is okay, as we'll find out in a second. They give Robert Pattinson nothing to do as Batman. Nothing to do as Batman.
I will say this. I gotta disagree with the acting being okay. I thought the acting was great. But I know what he means by giving him nothing to do as Batman. If you wanted to test his acting chops for this, that's not what they were trying to do. However, he did the stoic, brooding, strong, silent type very well for this. Which I think actually can be kind of hard for certain people to pull off. So, being an actor myself, I'm just, giving my little two cents to that.
I didn't think that Zoe Kravitz had any sort of chemistry with Robert Pattinson. So she's fine. She's kind of flirty. I didn't see anything particularly wrong with her performance. I just didn't see a lot right with her performance. You have John Turturro showing up as Carmine Falcone, and he is John Turturro. So he's okay. He's somewhat menacing. The best performance in the film is Colin Farrell playing the Penguin. You literally cannot spot Colin Farrell in this makeup. There is no way you can see Colin Farrell here. The whole movie, I'm staring at him going, that's not Colin. It is Colin Farrell. It's the best performance in the movie. Paul Dano gives a good performance.
Couple of shots, you can kind of see him. Paul Dano, before he even goes on, man, watching it a second time, like, God, man, he was really good. Some people were asking me, do I think he was as good as Heath Ledger's Joker? I think he's as good as Heath Ledger's Joker and Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. I think that his performance was outstanding.
The film, although he's sort of playing the Joker a little bit, although he's playing it more wide-eyed, as Paul Dano is apt to do. The main character of the film is the Riddler. And herein lies the main problem with the film. The biggest problem with the film is that the film hates Batman. The actual Batman character hates the Batman character. And this drives me up an absolute wall. The biggest problem with the film is not the wokeness. Yes, there's some woke touches. You have Catwoman, who is a woman of color, who is, of course, good. And you have the black female mayor, who is good. And you have the black Jim Gordon, who is good. Every white character is apparently bad, like all of them. Fine, whatever. I don't really care about that. That's fine. You have Catwoman say stuff about white privileged elites, and she makes a suggestion that Bruce Wayne is a child when his parents were killed. He doesn't really have a right to be super upset about that because, of course, he was very, very rich. That kind of rings hollow. Now, a lot of these lines seem like throwaways for film lefty Twitter, but the main theme is not a throwaway. The main theme is what matters here. The film despises Batman. So every Batman iteration has to explain why a man who is a billionaire would dress up like a bat and go around beating up criminals. It's not answered. And the director doesn't know. And the writer doesn't know. And this is the problem. So in the Nolan films, to take the contrast, the question as to why Batman does this is because if Batman does not actually intimidate the criminal underworld.
So I assume he's going to tell me that the movie doesn't tell us why, but we all know. I think it's kind of one of those givens in an equation, you know what I mean? It's just like, look, the whole world knows his story, why he does it. So, his parents were killed, and he doesn't want it to happen to anyone else. He wants to clean up Gotham, and,
Because the city is so corrupt, no one else will do it, and money isn't going to solve the problem. And so he needs to create a theatrical kind of fear in order to dissuade the criminal underworld from participating. And then, as it turns out, he also has to save the city itself and demonstrate his faith in the city by becoming a symbol. Here, you don't really know why Batman is doing what he's doing. It's never explained. He's very wealthy. He doesn't apparently do anything with his wealth. He doesn't try to give charity. He doesn't try... I mean, this is actually made a plot point. He's a bad man. He's white. He's a bad white man who doesn't actually give charity. He's not involved, and he's not playing that as a role. Again, this is part of the problem, is that Bruce Wayne and Batman are the same character. So if you...
He's really seeing something else in this movie that I didn't...
It is the gold standard for all superhero movies, not just
Batman
movies.
Definitely.
So when you look at Nolan's Batman, Bruce Wayne is the character that Batman is playing. Okay, Bruce Wayne is not real. Batman is real. Batman is who Bruce Wayne really is. And so he has to play a fob. In Batman Begins, he's squaring around ladies in his Lamborghini, and he's buying hotels, and he's doing all of this just to cover up for the fact that he is Batman. So you get very separate Batman and Bruce Wayne. Yet,
in this one, though, he's the same person in and outside of the makeup. And I pointed this out talking to other people, and it's like, there really is no difference. I tried to kind of find it. I can't really find a difference between the Batman and him. As a matter of fact, when he goes to the nightclub, the second time, he stands at the door, says the same thing, and acts the same way. Except I think he was looking at the ground a little bit more. Maybe he didn't want them to look into his eyes too much and realize who he might be.
The same thing actually with Michael Keaton. Batman and Bruce Wayne are two different characters. Here, Batman and Bruce Wayne are the exact same character. There are points where Bruce Wayne is walking around. He's got the same dour expression, same glazed look, same kind of emo thing going on as Batman does the entire movie. And so there's no dichotomy. Here's the actual plot of the film. Batman has only been Batman for a couple of years, so he's not really good at Batmaning yet. And he is tracking down criminals, and he gets drawn into a plot by the Riddler. The Riddler is getting clues so that Batman can track down all the way through the system of Gotham, this citywide corruption that apparently is going to bring down the entire superstructure of faith in the city. Meanwhile, you have Catwoman, who's Selena Kyle, played by Zoe Kravitz. And Zoe Kravitz is similarly engaged in an attempt to commit a robbery against one of these underworld figures, but she's drawn into Batman's orbit by a murder that both of them are investigating at the same time, the murder of her roommate. Maybe something more going on there. The Riddler is the main villain of the movie. You see the Penguin a fair bit. Carmine Falcone is one of the big characters in the movie. You get a little bit of Alfred. Of course, you get Jim Gordon, whose main job in this film is apparently just to say Jesus over and over again.
Christ is Coulson.
Whenever something bad happens, he just goes, Jesus. And that happens like 6 times. Like, Jim Gordon does nothing except for basically stop Batman from getting arrested a lot. That's pretty much all he does. He's a bad detective. He doesn't do anything. The plot is that all these people get killed. Batman uncovers it. He realizes that his dad was corrupt also, or that his dad engaged in corruption with Carmine Falcone. Finally, we get to the end. Paul Dano does it's such a rip-off of Seven. He gives himself up.
So a lot of
Doesn't get
people
captured
would
by
say.
Batman. Batman does not prevent a single one of these deaths. Batman, in fact, is complicit in one of the deaths by accident. And he doesn't actually capture the Riddler because he's clever. The Riddler gives himself up by sitting in a diner and getting arrested. Then he unleashes a bombing of Gotham that essentially causes the flooding of the city.
Right.
And Batman goes to the Madison Square Garden, where a mayoral event is now being held for the brand new mayor, who is an uplifting black female who has no other story or backstory, so she's really uninteresting. It starts to flood, and up on top, in the wings, are a bunch of Paul Dano's followers, are a bunch of the Riddler's followers who are all dressed like the Riddler, and they are shooting down into the crowd to try and kill members of the elite in Gotham City. And so Batman goes up there and he's beating people up. There comes a point where he's beating this guy, and he's really, like, maybe beating him almost to death. And he stops, and they take off that guy's mask, and they say, "Who are you?" And the guy says, "I am vengeance." Okay, now this is the theme throughout the film, the theme. Okay, so in order to explain why this is a problem, you have to now understand the character of the Riddler. So it says right at the beginning of the movie, "Who is Batman? I'm vengeance," right? He's just on the streets and he's beating people up.
I'm vengeance.
And then people keep calling him Mr. Vengeance for no apparent reason. Like, we don't know why they're calling him that, because he never actually publicly says he's vengeance. It's in his creepy diary, which again is supposed to be a mirror image of the fact that the Riddler also keeps a Zodiac Killer style diary. So they're supposed to be two halves of the same whole. Batman is beating up this.
That's one of those things where I'm assuming that he's been operating for 2 years, and every time someone asks him who he is, he says vengeance. I feel like it's kind of alluded to after he drops the criminal, the first one that he beats down. He says, "I'm vengeance." I think that is something he says he is. You know what I mean? Like, read more into it. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know. I could be wrong, but okay.
Follower of the Riddler's, he takes off his mask, and the guy says, "I'm vengeance." And suddenly Batman sees. Suddenly Batman realizes he can't be vengeance. That's not what he's meant to do. He's betrayed his mission. And so he then descends on an electrified cable because he's trying to stop people from being electrocuted by this flying electrical wire.
Yeah.
And he cuts off the cable. He's holding on to it. He falls down into the water. A rebaptism. He gets up. And then he proceeds to lead a bunch of people who are not really trapped, but kind of trapped, I suppose. And he leads them to, I guess, a safer place by carrying a torch. And then he goes up to the top of Madison Square Garden, and he is helping people be airlifted and medevaced out. And this is how he has learned fulfillment. So, what is this movie about? This movie is about how fighting criminality does not actually help innocent people. He says this at the very beginning. He says, "I'm not sure I'm doing any good. I'm not sure I'm doing any good. By fighting the criminals, crime is still up." It turns out that Batman has to stop being Batman. Batman has been missing it the whole time. What Batman really has to be is Superman. Batman needs to go into areas like Madison Square Garden and not fight the criminals. He needs to go and lead people with a torch to a slightly safer area. He needs to help medevac people on the top of it. He needs to build habitat for
That did
humanity.
remind
He needs
me
to join Jimmy Carter and build houses for
of
homeless people.
Superman helping
That's what Batman
outside the
needs
Capitol.
to be doing. This really is a sort of attack on the idea that fighting crime helps innocent people. It's an almost defund the police attitude toward what crime is. And it's an attack on the basic idea that individuals are capable of doing justice by finding bad guys and fighting them. Instead, apparently, individuals are only capable of doing nice things by helping little old ladies cross the street. It's this sort of mentality that has led to New York turning into Gotham City in the last couple of years, by the way. That's a fundamental betrayal of what Batman is. What makes Batman different from the Riddler and than any of these other criminals is these criminals target innocent people and Batman targets criminals. That's the basis of the character. The entire basis of the character is the cops are bad at targeting criminals because they're corrupt. Batman is good at targeting criminals because he's smart and because he's rich and because he's incorruptible. That's the entire basis of Batman. And they take all that and they flip it on its head. They don't like Batman. And this is why I have real problems with the movie. I kind of hate the movie. Like, the more I think about it, the more I get angry at it. Because they take the fundamental idea of what Batman is supposed to be, a protector of the innocent who targets the criminal, and they say that if he targets the criminal, this makes him no different than criminals. Because Paul Dano, who's the Riddler, is also targeting criminals. All the way up until the very end, when they have to just sort of add on this attack on Madison Square Garden and New York Broad Rip for no reason. He has no motivation for blowing up a bunch of trucks and flooding downtown. Like, none. He doesn't explain why he does it. He doesn't explain what the purpose of it is. All the way along, he's been saying, I'm exposing the true face of Gotham. Okay, that's a rationale.
Right.
But what does that have to do with blowing up the city? They add that on just so that they can create a false distinction between Batman and the Riddler so that Batman can change his mission. So now Batman's mission is not beating up bad guys and stopping bad guys. Now Batman's mission is to be a firefighter. He's no longer a detective or a police officer, he's a firefighter. That's a betrayal. It's a real problem. And that's my biggest issue with the film.
Okay.
It just feels like such a sellout. It feels like such a sellout of what Batman is supposed to be. Again, it's got a little bit of woke politics, but that's really not the problem. The problem is the broader woke orientation of the film. If the Nolan Batman was about the idea that you help innocent people by fighting criminality and provide an inspiration to people to fight criminality, if that's the idea of Batman, which it is, that's completely thrown on its head here. Matt Reeves, who's credited as both a director and a writer on the film, he does not like Batman, and I can't get over this. How do you give $150 million to a dude to make a movie about Batman when he clearly does not like Batman? When he thinks that Batman is bad, and that Batman has to be shown the error of his ways and learn to be a nicer human being. By the way, the very end of the movie, Catwoman, who at no point has actually demonstrated any sort of moral bona fides. Like, I'm not sure she does a moral thing in the entire movie. At the very end, she says to him, why don't you run away with me? And we'll go rob some hedge fund CEOs. And he doesn't say back to her, you know, that's bad to rob hedge fund CEOs. Instead, he's like, he thinks about it for a moment. She's like, no, you belong in Gotham. The generalized cheap left-wing sensibility is very silly with regard to Catwoman. If I have not made clear at this point, the movie's also 8 hours long. It's like a Wagnerian ring cycle, this film. It just goes on and on and on. Every shot is composed in order to have people walk across rooms. Like, Christopher Nolan would snap that cut right to the action. If you watch Dark Knight, there is no wasted motion in that film, and it's 2.5 hours long. This is 3 hours long, and it feels like 4. I never check my watch during movies, particularly not a Batman movie, and I check my watch at least twice during this film. It's better than Marvel, because everything's better than Marvel, because Marvel doesn't take characters seriously, and Marvel feels like cotton candy. This doesn't feel like cotton candy, it just feels like a fundamental betrayal of the character, which is just, it's lazy writing, and more than that, it's not nice to the audience. The audience wants to see Batman be Batman, and be good at being Batman, and know why he's being Batman. They don't want to see Batman learn the lesson that being Batman is bad. That defeats the purpose of going to a Batman film. Alrighty, so that is my review of The Batman. I know, a lot of people really like the movie because, hey, it's Batman. It's hard to dislike Batman. But, folks, if you like this video, please like and subscribe and recommend some other movies that are coming up in the near future you'd like to see me review, or just leave a comment below and tell me how wrong I am. Or maybe I am.
Take that, you wicked psycho!
Well, I guess Ben Shapiro didn't like the movie. Oh my God. No, like in no way did I think he was going to see that in the movie, but he's a different guy. He thinks differently. That's why he's Ben Shapiro. It was a funny review. I saw a little bit of what he was talking about. I don't know if I don't know if that's the true take, though. I don't know if that was what Reeves meant for people to see. I assume most people don't see that at all. I've watched a few reviews. I haven't heard any. I haven't actually seen any reviews where people didn't like it. Send me some reviews where people didn't like it. That were done before Shapiro's, because people like to copy other people's work. I've seen that before, and it's like they're spewing. This guy saying like almost verbatim what Stuckman said or what Jeremy John said. Like sometimes I watch these smaller channels and I'm like, they're saying the same thing. Like I think he watched him before he did his. But you get what I'm saying? So send me some ones that were done before Shapiro where people didn't like it. Post comments down below. Let me know what you all thought. If you enjoyed my reaction to Mr. Shapiro's review, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, and share. 10 million subscribers.